Which one? If you're trying to decide between the Fold 8 Ultra and the Fold 8, I feel you, because it's a tricky decision, and we didn't have it last year. Last year, it was just the Fold 7 and the Flip, if you wanted the Flip. The Flip still exists, but if that's not for you, you now have two choices. In this video, I'm going to give you what you need to know about the differences between these two. I've used both of them extensively, so I've got a lot of thoughts, a lot of experience, enough experience, I think, to give you some decent buying guidance. The overall decision, the ultimate yes or no for one of these, is down to you, obviously, but I think by the end of this video, you'll know which one. I'm also very aware it's been a very foldable couple of weeks on this channel. We've got one other video coming, which is my 3 week later review of this, and then different stuff, but this is so interesting. We can do some of this fairly quickly, I think, and remember that I do have full reviews of both of these on the channel, so go and check those out after you've watched this one to do a bit more research. But pricing. There's basically a £200, $200 difference between the two, regardless of which storage and RAM tier you go for. They've both got the same storage/RAM tiers, 256, 512, and 1TB. The 1TB version of either of these comes with 16 gig versus 12 gig on the other ones. So they're still very expensive phones, and because of that, you need to go into either of these with a reason to want or need a foldable. I think if you just go into this with on a bit of a whim, on a bit of an experimental thing, unless you've got the budget for it and you just fancy that's fine, obviously. But if this is going to be your main phone and it's, you don't want to get this decision wrong, you need to want a foldable, and that applies to both of these. Right, before we carry on, this section is brought to you by Inmo, and I want to tell you about their Go 3 AI glasses, because honestly, they blew me away. Inmo has been at this for 3 generations. The Go 1 basically invented the wireless AI glasses category. The Go 2 added real-time translation and a binocular display, but like all smart glasses back then, it was just a little bit chunky. With the Go 3, they've fixed all of that. The wearing experience is fantastic. These glasses feature counterbalanced weight that sits back on your head rather than dragging on your nose. They also have 8mm slim temple arms and an optical engine where the display light doesn't leak forward, and that means no one else can see your screen, which is a nice touch. But the translation is the headline feature. The Go 3 feature real-time translation that supports 98 languages and dialogue translation for 77 languages with subtitles scrolling in front of your eyes. I also love the magnetic battery. It's swappable in a few seconds without powering down. That's exactly the kind of practical thinking I wish we saw in more wearables. On that note, you can also use the little Bluetooth speaker, which essentially speaks for you when you need to translate something you're saying. As you might expect, there's an AI assistant built in, which is backed by GPT-4o or Gemini 2.5 Pro. All you have to say is, hey, Inmo. The Go 3 glasses are fantastic for business professionals and frequent international travelers. It's like having your own, always-on AI business assistant. That is so useful. If you want to learn more, go and check that link in the description. Let's start with these displays, because that's where most of the differences lie between these two phones, and it's where I think you'll make your choice ultimately between the two. The Fold 8 Ultra is like a regular phone when closed. If I put it up against the S26 Ultra, that is wider, it's a bit taller, but they're roughly the same. They feel very similar. So if you're coming from a regular phone to a foldable, this won't feel unusual when you first get it in your hand. The Fold 8 is completely different. This will feel incredibly different if you're used to phones like this, or if you're used to phones like this for that matter, because look at it. It's much squatter. That's probably the best way of describing it. It's basically a passport. It's a passport-sized phone, and it's got BlackBerry vibes. If you had a BlackBerry back in the day, minus the physical keyboard, it's very, very similar in the way that it feels. So immediately, the experience between these two, when closed, is very different. Then you open them. So if we open up the Fold 8 Ultra, you get this huge internal display. And if you are used to this, if you've got a Fold 7, a Fold 6, 5, whatever, you will be used to this screen. And if you've got used to using it for multitasking, for watching stuff, for doing, serious productive work, then you will love this thing. The Fold 8, you open it up and it looks very different to the Ultra. If I hold them up against each other, they look incredibly different. And if I turn them, they still look different. And this is the big difference between the two for me. So the Fold 8 Ultra, when open, regardless of which orientation you have it in, and they are slightly different in terms of the aspect ratio, it feels pretty much the same. It looks the same. It looks pretty much square. The Fold 8 doesn't. So if it's horizontal, you get that. And if it's vertical, you get that. And for me, that way of using it is brilliant for reading, for Kindle. It's great for watching stuff. That way is fantastic for a couple of things, for scrolling stuff, for using it as a tablet or a very big phone. I love typing on it in this way. It's really satisfying. What that means for me personally is that the Fold 8 makes me very intentional about the way that I use this phone. With the Fold 8 Ultra, like every other foldable that's come before it, the Fold 7, etc., Honor's foldable, Oppo, etc. After a while, I just have less of a reason to do that. Now, it's a honeymoon phase, I get that. I've only had this for a couple of weeks, but I get the impression that just the consistency already that I'm using this in terms of deliberately using the front screen for regular phone stuff, texting people, checking things quickly, and then for reading at night, I do that. I use that same aspect ratio for watching YouTube videos. And then sometimes I want to do kind of tablet-based stuff like that. It's all very intentional. That's the best word I can use to describe it. And I've always struggled with the regular foldable size to find intentional use cases for it. When it comes to the screen tech itself, they are basically the same setup, really, apart from having different aspect ratios. They both have 3000 nits of peak brightness. They have on the inside screen, on the internal display, they have the anti-reflective coating. I got this wrong in my previous review of the Ultra, apologies. I said that they had the anti-reflective coating on both the front and on the inside. That's not the case. It's just on the inside that you get that anti-reflective coating. That's the same for both phones. And then we get to the hinge. Both of these phones have the new Flex titanium hinge, which is brilliant because it snaps open very confidently. And okay, it's early days, but in theory, it should just add yet more rigidity and basically long-term endurance for that hinge, because that's the one concern people still have, understandably, about foldables. The number of times that you're doing this, how much is it going to put up with that? The good news is that Samsung has been doing this now for 8 generations, and the Flex titanium hinge, which has lots of clever stuff going on, which I won't bore you with now, is just the next version of that. So it's better. It is better. There is one downside here, and one thing to bear in mind, which is that Flex mode, which is when you open the phone sort of half like that, and you can use it as a typing surface, or you can just use it to watch stuff on YouTube, for instance. That exists on the Fold 8 Ultra, but it doesn't exist on the Fold 8. You can't do the Flex mode thing. Why can't you? Can you? Hang on a minute. Is that right? It feels like it should work. If I put on one of my YouTube videos and turn it around like that. No, it doesn't have Flex mode. Fine. Flex mode on the Fold 8 Ultra. Also, there's a bit of an issue with this one because of the new hinge. It too readily snaps open. So you get to a certain point where it just wants to open. Whereas on the Fold 7, it was less snappy, so you can basically really kind of adjust that angle. That's something to bear in mind if you use Flex mode. I don't, so it doesn't bother me at all. But if it does bother you, that is something to keep at the back of your mind. What else do we need to talk about with the hinge? Nothing really, because it's great. I think the hinge is fantastic on both these phones. But let's get to the next very big difference. The camera system. So on the Fold 8 Ultra, we have a 200 megapixel main camera, a 50 megapixel ultra wide, which is up from 12 megapixels on the Fold 7, and a 3x optical zoom. It also has HDR mode for that 200 megapixel camera, which we didn't have before on the Fold 7, and CineLut. So if you want to, you can shoot video in a flat color profile and then do lots of clever stuff in post if you want to. The Fold 8, by comparison, has 2 cameras. They're both 50 megapixel. We have an ultra wide and a 1x main zoom. That's it. Everything beyond that is digital zoom, up to 10 times, I think. In everyday life, it doesn't make a huge difference. The 3x optical zoom on here is better than the 3x digital zoom on here, obviously. But the sweet spot for this, I think, is about 4 times in terms of digital zoom, maybe 5-ish. On a very good day, with very good lighting, 10 times does a pretty good job, but 4 or 5 times zoom on this is pretty good, actually. It's pretty impressive. And the main camera, although we have 200 megapixels on this, and if that matters to you, then go for the Fold 8. Can't say the word. The Fold 8 Ultra. Go for that. If it doesn't matter to you, and you just point your camera at things and take photos, they both pretty much do the same job, and I like the photos they both take. I'm a fan of Samsung photography. It just does the job straight out the box, and the most important thing for both these phones is that they can capture my son and my dog pretty much perfectly every time. And trust me, that's tricky because they do not stop moving. Performance and battery. Okay, these are both, in my opinion, why do I keep doing that with my glasses? They're both flagship phones because they use the same chip, which is the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 for Galaxy. The 4 Galaxy bit, it means that Samsung works with the Snapdragon people to make that chip work best for these phones, so that's good news, and it means they both have the same performance pretty much. They also have the same battery technology, so they both have carbon, silicon, kryptonite, whatever it's called, that fancy battery technology that everyone wanted Samsung to adopt. They've adopted it for these two phones. The difference is the size. So in the Ultra, we have 5,000 milliamp hours, and in the Fold 8, we have 4,800 milliamp hours. The difference in terms of suggested video playback from Samsung is 27 hours and 26 hours, so not a big difference. In my experience, the battery life on both of these is really impressive. You get well into 2 days with normal use. The charging is the same as well. I think 45 watt wired charging, 20 watt wireless charging. Samsung has nailed the battery side of things. You cannot throw that at Samsung anymore in terms of not having the latest tech and the biggest batteries. Okay, there are bigger batteries out there on foldables, but again, in everyday life, it doesn't matter. It makes no difference. They're superb. They both run One UI 9, so they have Galaxy AI. They have all the new Now Brief, Now Nudge stuff. They have this automation across 40 plus apps where you can ask your phone to do something and it does it all for you. It fires up the apps, it does the Uber booking for you, all that stuff. I've not tested that yet. I will at some stage, but I did see it demoed at the Samsung hands-on briefing that I went to a few weeks ago, and it looked very impressive. Remains to be seen what it works like in real life, but we'll see. And they both have insane levels of multitasking. You can open 3 windows on each, so you can have 3 side by side, and you can have floating windows as well that you can resize. I don't go that far. At the most, I open 2 windows side by side, and on both of these phones, it works brilliantly. But I know you're asking, who is each of these for? If you've been a Samsung foldable user for quite a while now and you skipped the 7 last year, but you are due an upgrade this year, I think the safe choice is the Fold 8 Ultra, obviously because it's pretty much the same phone as this. And I say safe because you're used to this form factor. I think this could be a bit of a departure. I think it could be a bit risky. And if you're up for that risk, go for it. Try it. If you need to send it back, providing that's within the return window and all that stuff. If you're not sure about that, just get this. Samsung still makes the best foldable out there, in my humble opinion, and you will not be disappointed, particularly if you're coming from the 4 or the 5 or the 6. That's going to be a huge upgrade. You'll be very, very pleased with this. If you're new to foldables and you've been put off by them in the past and you're just not sure about this form factor, but you're tempted because of this, give it a go. I'm confident you'll think it's one of the best phones you've ever had. The game has completely changed this year, and it might even get a bit more complicated later this year if we see something from Apple. We don't know if that's going to happen, but if it does, that could complicate things further for people. But if you're a Samsung person, and particularly a foldable person, you now have 2 choices. And like I said, I just think this is the safe one for regular foldable people. But if you're on the fence, or if you want to come into this world, you've done it at the right time, because my vote, this. Get involved in the comments, please, guys. And if you haven't hit subscribe yet, you know what to do. There's lots of very exciting videos coming.